That being said, let me read a bit from Amazing Things Are Happening Here, the title story. We were short one lunatic. I know it's entirely out of bounds to refer to our patients as lunatics, and I generally don't. But it's also not every night that Bernadette does a head count and comes up one head short. Fact is, it hasn't happened before in my 17 years as charge nurse, which is good as never as far as I'm concerned. Sure, we've had agoraphobics who've hidden under beds, and once a detox patient dozed off inside an electric dryer, but all it takes is a careful search and we find them. There's just not much of a place to lose oneself on a psych ward. When I first started here at the VA hospital in Laurenville, back when male nurses stood out like drag queens and most of our vets were straight off transports from the Gulf, doddering Miss K was the charge nurse on the graveyard shift, and she'd get the census wrong as often as not. But Bernadette is studying to be an NP, and she's the queen of arithmetic. If she says we're missing a nutcase, we're missing a nutcase. Time to dispatch the paddy wagons and the giant butterfly nets. Or in the language of the Veterans Administration, implement a code white. We don't implement a code white, of course. That's how people get fired. A guy can have a perfect record for 17 years, never so much as drop an order or misplace a syringe, but suddenly a patient goes AWOL, even for a few hours, and the bigwigs in Washington will be clamoring for somebody's scalp. Far better to let things blow over, to wait for the missing Looney Tune to reappear. No point in risking your pension because some troublemaker has bested you at hide and seek. Who are we looking for, I asked. Dunham, said Bernadette. Dunham? Bernadette displayed the palms of her enormous hands, her way of announcing that she knew little more about the business than I did. She's a busty girl from South Carolina, all teeth and eyes, the sort of creature that a 48-year-old bachelor could easily make a fool of himself over, if he weren't careful. But the skirt-chasing chapter of my life was long closed. He'll have come in yesterday, she said, on the second shift. All it says in the chart is uncooperative, hold over for further evaluation. Black? White? I asked. Tall? Short? Bald? Can't be helping you there. Bernadette adjusted the computer monitor so that I might watch as she scrolled through Dunham's electronic admission note. None of the blanks in the template had been completed. Another masterpiece from Dr. Thorough, she quipped. Don't let all that data overwhelm you. Dr. Thorough and Dr. Brilliant were Bernadette's nicknames for the two attendings physicians on our unit. Thorough, whose Slavic surname was longer than a freight train, had cut his medical teeth running a charity hospital in Belgrade. Brilliant, whose real name was short and Turkish and uncannily deficient in vowels, stood only 1 year from retirement and had the taxing habit of leaving his door keys in locks. Neither was particularly invested in his job or popular with the patients, but they were both easy men to manage from below, which is what really mattered. Before Dr. Thorough, we briefly had a unit chief fresh out of training at Yale, a bright-eyed girl who viewed inpatient psychiatry as her life's calling, and we scrambled through hell and back to keep her from making a royal mess of the place. As far as Dr. Thorough was concerned, anything that afforded him more time to breed Cairn Terriers, or to Paracel qualified as first-rate healthcare. In contrast, Dr. Brilliant's management style consisted entirely of consulting specialists in other fields and of relating anecdotes about his twin granddaughters. It was already after 6 a.m., nearly medication time, and then the dynamic duo of Brilliant and Thorough would arrive at 8 o'clock for morning rounds. I ushered Bernadette into the break room, where Hyacinth, the senior swing nurse, sat watching a Mexican game show and snacking on sardines. Hyacinth is the real deal. 6 stepchildren at home and a voice strong enough to dislodge shingles. I swear this place smelled like the Creve Fish Market in August. Dunham is missing, I announced, but you can't tell anyone. Who the hell is Dunham? Asked Hyacinth. He came in yesterday, second shift, I said knowingly. Seems he didn't stay long. Hyacinth plucked a tiny bone from her teeth. What is that supposed to mean? It means he's missing, unaccounted for, on the lam. Whatever, he's probably napping in one of the washing machines. I sensed lava mounting in my temples. I'm telling you, he's gone. Okay, she said, he's gone. Did you call a cold white? Like hell I did, I snapped. I'm not giving up my paycheck that easy. Our eyes met. My stomach quivered, as though I were staring down a grizzly bear brandishing a chainsaw. So now what? Interjected Bernadette. Now we pretend as though nothing is wrong, I explained, hatching my plan in the moment. There are 3 of us. As long as one of us is working each shift, nobody needs to know that Dunham isn't here. He's bound to turn up eventually. Hyacinth looked as though she'd swallowed a sardine stuffed with glass shards. You're crazy, man, she said. We could go to jail. I nodded. Yes, we could, or we could get canned. Any better ideas? Hyacinth rocked her head back and forth slowly, her nostrils flaring as she weighed my proposal. A woman on television screen spun a glistening vertical wheel, and the audience applauded. In the corridor, Abe Schimmelbach, one of our paranoid schizophrenics, chanted his morning prayers. Besides, I grinned, amazing things are happening here. That's the Laurenville VA's motto. Amazing things are happening here. It was entered into a contest for the hospital's 50th anniversary, and they've got it hanging from banners in the lobby. Funny thing is, it's not even original. An employee submitted the slogan, pinched it from a hospital in New York City. But by the time the brass on the ninth floor got on, they'd already paid for the signs. You two can handle all the meds today, I ordered, and record Dunham's as refused by patient. Hyacinth's face blazed with consternation. Her eyes bulged beneath her hand-penciled brows. And what will you be doing while we do your job? I'll be in morning rounds, Miss Pike, I said. Someone has to account for what Mr. Dunham's been up to while he hasn't been here. The powers that be had decided to renovate the conference room, so morning rounds took place off the unit, in a windowless space that doubled as an overflow storeroom for the orthopedics division. Assorted braces and collars poked out of crates stacked along the far wall. On the shelf above the busted sink, a row of fiberglass prosthetic feet, some dating from the Eisenhower era, stood at macabre attention. We cleared the plastic-wrapped crutches from the table every morning, then returned the following day to discover yet more crutches, as though the aluminum appendages sprouted overnight like squid tentacles. From next door, the sound of a men's laboratory drifted through the air shaft, leaving nothing to the imagination. Dr. Brilliant arrived 10 minutes late and informed us that Dr. Thorough had phoned in sick, but that we had a new third-year medical student with us that morning, Zachary, who'd been able to pick up the slack. Then our venerated leader asked me to read the overnight logbook. Vicky, who doubled as both charge nurse on the early shift and acting nurse manager ever since Miss Denton had fallen off her bicycle, was more than happy to sport me overtime to share her duties. So I read aloud. Each patient's report, Schimmelbach, Marcus, Frotherberg, brought us closer to Dunham. Dunham, I announced, refusing meds, otherwise common cooperative. Vital signs, inquired Brilliant. I invented the numbers as I spoke, rendering him stable but slightly hypertensive. I didn't have much of an opportunity to speak with Mr. Dunham yesterday, observed Dr. Brilliant. Why don't we make him a project for our esteemed medical student? Let's say we'll interview him together around noon. I could feel the chill of cold white enveloping me, the countless investigative hearings and rehearings, the interviews with successive grievance officers, then the cash-strapped months spent mailing out resumes to nursing homes and prisons. Noon is lunchtime, I ventured. I drew a deep breath and added, Dunham could use the calories. An excellent point, that, declared Dr. Brilliant, holding up his index finger like a medieval rabbi or a television detective. He extended his arm suddenly, as though in accusation, fixing his finger on the hapless medical student. Why don't you interview him on your own, Zachary, and then we can discuss his case afterwards? Sure, agreed Zachary. He was a handsome, clean-cut kid. His white coat as stiff as chainmail. Could you spell that name for me? I spelled Dunham's name. First name Edward. Edward, echoed the medical student. And then an impulse seized hold of me, perhaps clever, perhaps destructive, and I added, but he goes by Ward. Ward Dunham, said Dr. Brilliant. You have to find out why he goes by Ward, not Ed, he instructed the student. Names are often the most revealing signs of pathology. Sometimes a nickname tells your entire diagnosis. If a fellow comes in and his wife calls him Dickie or Little Peter, that might be all you need to know. Zachary's face colored. Miss Hernandez, our temporary social worker, started cleaning her spectacles with a tissue. Dunham is one of our regular customers, I lied, glad that most of the day staff had turned over since Dr. Yale's departure. He comes in depressed, keeps to himself, returns home after a few weeks. I looked pointedly at Zachary. The man is quiet as a shadow. You'll hardly even know he's here. And I stopped there. Thank you very much.